Let's see if this actually works. This is not a ride sharing video. I'm just testing out the camera while I'm walking, but as you can see, the video is titled, Ron DeSantis has said that President Trump lost the election. So we have to ask the question, what does that, how does that reflect on Ron DeSantis? He has now come forward and publicly stated on television that President Trump lost the election. Yet another Republican, yet another conservative actually admitting President Trump lost the election. I guess the question I want to ask to some degree is, how many Republicans in office are still suggesting that Trump won the election? Now remember, we're not talking about was there election fraud. We're talking about that believes Trump won by a landslide, which is what Trump is saying. So I want to ask that question. How many Republicans serving in office, whether it's a Republican senator, governor, congressperson, how many Republicans do you know? I know Marjorie Taylor Greene, perhaps. Carrie Lake is not a politician, but she came close to having a gubernatorial job in Arizona. But how many serving politicians? Does Matt Gaetz, does Matt Gaetz believe Trump won? Because I'm asking that question. Ron DeSantis has now publicly stated that Trump did not win in 2020. Who else is left other than President Trump himself? Z-Pack. Welcome to the program. So what do you think of Ron DeSantis coming out and admitting that Trump lost?
Well, I'm sure he'll be a rhino tomorrow.
Are you suggesting that merely saying that Trump lost the race can turn your entire Republican, force you to hand in your entire Republican card?
In MAGA world, absolutely.
Wow.
That's how it works. The
But
minute that you say something bad about Trump or you say that he lost the election, you're suddenly a rhinoceros.
yes, but Ron DeSantis is a highly respected Republican. You don't think they would do that to Ron DeSantis, do you?
Yes, they would, because they did it to Mike Pence, and he was a highly respected Republican.
Yeah.
He was this great Christian value. I like the Christian rights. And so, of course, I mean, they're going to turn on him. He's going to send out a tweet at 1 a.m. calling him a rhino, and how
Mm.
I never really had, he never had any support until I supported him. He was going to lose Florida. He was going to lose so strong. And I came in and I said, Ronnie, you want to ride? And so, yeah, I mean, that's what he does.
So Meg in the comments is saying Ron DeSantis will say anything at this point. What a turncoat he's turned out to be. Is he just a
Ron,
turncoat?
right. I mean, you're seeing this in real time. I mean, you're seeing people um, come out and literally say, we don't like this guy anymore just because he doesn't like our king. And if that's not like a red flag for you that there's something wrong. Imagine if Obama, imagine if like, remember when Bernie Sanders like suggested primarying Obama? Did anybody in the Democratic Party call him? I mean, they called him names, or I guess they called
Not
him like
nowhere near
nowhere
to
near
this
this
level.
though,
Yeah, nowhere
right?
near this.
Right. Because Democrats have this thing where like they can decipher between, an opinion and all glory high king.
Right.
And Joe Biden's certainly not a king to many Democrats at all. He's just simply the guy that got rid of Donald Trump, and that's good enough for most Democrats, at least in the short term. So, if Newsom were to announce his candidacy tomorrow and say, "I want to throw my hat in the ring," you wouldn't you wouldn't see Democrats resort
So
and
yeah, but
Newsom
that's
attack
because
Biden
yeah,
and
because
Newsom
we don't
attack Biden. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but we don't have the love for Biden like the Republicans have for Trump. So clearly you're not gonna get that.
Well, and they shouldn't have love for Donald Trump because he's really cost them a lot of elections. Like if you look at, first of all, 2018, was a massive primary defeat, right? And
Yeah.
then 2020, he lost the election to sleepy Joe Biden because, there was nobody at his rallies, and everybody was at my rallies, so I must have won. They haven't figured out that rallies don't mean anything, because if that was true, Bernie Sanders would be president of the United States
That is true. That is true. So
because
I
he
mean,
had rallies.
but at this point, who in the Republican Party other than Trump do they have respect for? I mean, are we at the point now where if any Republican in existence says something about Trump, do we throw their whole reputation away? Is there anybody above that?
Um, Currently, it doesn't appear to be that way. It appears that Donald Trump is the absolute king, and there's nothing you can say about it, and there's nothing you can do about it. And even in the comments, you see people saying Biden stole the election. I have no respect for Pence. I mean, these are, crooks. Like, what evidence do you have that supports your hypothesis? You really don't have any at all. And you're still going up on this hill, and you're attacking everybody that attacks Donald Trump because God forbid Donald Trump would be wrong. And that's dangerous behavior. That is like Jim Jones stuff.
Yeah, it does to some degree start to look like Republican cannibalism because you are correct. Like, there doesn't seem to be anyone that can challenge Trump and maintain their respect within the Republican Party.
No, and the only one who just doesn't care is Chris Christie. But the thing about Chris Christie is, see, this is my issue. Bill Barr, Chris Christie, they're being painted out to be some sort of savior now. Oh my goodness, we're so refreshed that this happened. But they were there, like Chris Christie was there having Donald Trump interrupt Joe Biden so Joe Biden could stutter on the national stage. That was the strategy in that first debate. Chris Christie
Well,
was teaching Donald Trump.
but that's only. I mean, but that's politics. If he's teaching Trump how to debate, and you know that your opposition's weakness is him not being able to speak without stuttering, you're going to try to exploit that.
Well, yeah, sure, but like, where was Chris Christie calling out his corruption when, if he was like, and this is the thing, like, Chris Christie can be viewed as some sort of a refreshing breath of fresh air, but if it was so bad with Donald Trump, then Chris Christie should have left. He should have just gone out of there, and the same thing with Bill Barr. Bill Barr covered up for Donald Trump with the Mueller report. I mean, we all know that's what happened. He
Yeah,
worded it in
yeah,
a way that was favorable to Donald
yeah,
Trump, even though Mueller came out and said that he could have charged Donald Trump, but the only reason he couldn't was because he was a sitting president, and that was literally in there. And
yeah,
what was he going to charge him for? Obstruction, which is the same thing that Donald Trump is being charged for in the classified documents case. Not to get off topic here, but that's important to understand,
yeah.
right?
Well,
And
I
so
will
Bill
say
Barr
this.
was there.
I will say this. I got to move it on, but I'll say this in regards to Chris Christie. He said the only time he stopped, he jumped from the Trump train is when Trump did what he did on January 6th. He was like, that was the final straw for him.
I mean, and that's fine, but there was a lot of bad shit that Donald Trump did before January 6th that definitely could have. Like, why were you hanging around that long? I don't know.
Fair enough. All right, Z. Appreciate you
All right,
coming in,
man.
man. Hey,
Thanks.
good talk. Looking in the comments, out here taking my evening walk, trying to get a couple miles and figured I'd talk to the folks. Quid pro quo Joe, lock him up. You know, in regards to locking up Joseph Biden, is he guilty of something? I don't know, but I will tell you this. The stuff that folks were suggesting that Hillary Clinton was guilty of, if you didn't get her, you're not going to get Joe Biden. I mean, she has a death list. Hillary Clinton has a freaking death list that you guys were accusing her of. Accusing of her of enjoying the fluids of infants. If you couldn't get somebody that's did all of that shit, in your humble opinion, because I don't believe it, but if you guys truly believe Hillary Clinton did all of that and you couldn't get her, Joe Biden is a waste of time. I mean, you're claiming that the woman has a death list. So you're talking multiple murders. You're claiming that she's drinking the fluids of infants. And you don't even so much as investigate her while she's in office. And this is while Trump was president. But you think you're going to get Biden while he is president? That doesn't make sense. Going back to the comment section. Republicans are off the rails with the conspiracies. Yeah. Remember Pizzagate? Neither side will be held accountable at those high levels. I want to agree with you, but I will say that Trump is starting to get hit harder than anybody expected. Would you ever have expected him to be impeached twice? Would you ever have expected him to be indicted once, twice, three times? A lady, as Lionel Richie was saying, we know four is coming. Would you ever have expected him to have his home raided? So Trump is like the father of unprecedented actions taking place. So if we're ever going to suggest that something would never happen, he has proven over and over and over again that it may just happen to him. So I'm still in the camp that Trump is not going to spend any time incarcerated, but there's no way I believe he's going to be found innocent of like 78 charges. I'm beyond that at this point. Will he serve any time? Probably not. Probably give him some sweet plea deal to save the country from chaos and, division and shit like that. I'm fine with that, but I don't believe he's going to beat 78 federal charges. I don't believe that. And that's not even counting what they're going to throw at him from Georgia too. That's 78 charges he got right now. There's some more coming later this month. Let's go back to the box. Now, in the comments, Gino says most charges are the same charge. They're variations of it, though. They're variations of, but they're not on the same charge. There's enough stuff there. Let's say it was 30 charges. Let's say it was 10. How many people are charged with 10 major crimes by the feds and beat all 10? Do you realize how rare that is? I mean, you're talking 95% or greater. That's how rare that is. And that's 10. That's going to court with 10 federal charges, not 70. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you like Trump or or you dislike Trump. I'm just going by what the actual odds are in the terms of in terms of the history of the federal government. You're not going to beat 78 charges. You're just not. All right, going back to the box. We'll keep it moving with Wide Awake. Love the good afternoon. Welcome, or good evening. Welcome to my evening walk. Ron DeSantis has come forward and stated that Trump actually lost. You have a different view of Ron DeSantis now.
I have the same view of Ron DeSantis. I mean, you've had the conversation before. I think he's overstepped his bounds in Florida long before these comments. Uh,
Are
yeah.
you
So
suggesting that it's time? Are you suggesting that it's time to remove him from the governor's job in Florida?
no, not. I mean, the alternative that they had down there in Florida, I think he was the best selection. But I think like they're in an effort to try to win over Trump's base, he's went completely off the rails with some of the laws he's written or signed into law there in the state of Florida. He's tried to out Trump and went too far.
Yeah, he is pretty far to the right. There's no denying he's pretty far to the right at this point. I mean, but do you see Trump's base viewing him differently now that he's been on national TV admitting that Trump lost the election?
I don't know. I mean, he's got 17% of Republican support. He's in second place. So, I mean, there's obviously a fairly decent portion of the Republican Party that still support him, despite, him coming out and saying what he said.
Yeah, there are some people that are suggesting that because he's falling so fast that Vivek Ramaswamy or whatever his name is, people are suggesting he may surpass DeSantis.
I think Vivek was going to surpass DeSantis and run neck and neck with Trump, despite the, recent dealings of DeSantis there. I mean, if you look at Vivek's policies that he advocates for, a lot of them are with in line with what Trump supporters wanted to see more of out of his first term, but didn't get to see.
But
Like,
isn't Ron DeSantis in line with what Trump was promoting as well?
I mean, I think to some degree, yeah, but I mean, so the one thing that I think Vivek has avoided is trying to cause internal fighting within the Republican Party. He's he's said more modestly where he finds himself at, where he disagrees with Trump, but he hasn't waged war against the Trump supporters base. And I honestly think that he's probably on Trump's short list for VP selections at this point.
Is it possible to be a free thinking Republican politician and be critical of Trump in any way and still remain favorable to Republicans?
I think so. I mean, look at how McCarthy ended up in the speakership. He aligns with Trump more often than he doesn't, but when he doesn't, he's come out against him. I mean, Lindsey Graham is another example of someone who's been on both sides, and he's caught
Did you see
backlash.
what happened at a Trump rally in his own home state about a month
Yeah,
ago where they booed the hell out of him? You think he's still in favor with the Republican Party?
well, maybe not with the diehards, right? But I mean, there's still people that support some of Lindsey Graham's policies that is middle of the road and sensible, despite the fact that he got booed in his home state. I mean, you have diehard supporters on both sides of the political aisle who are going to ride or die with their guy, Dark Brandon or Trump Train, however you want to view it. They're going to ride or die with them no matter
Ain't
what.
nobody, wait. Ain't nobody riding or dying with Dark Brandon. We ain't like that.
Man, maybe my algorithm's different than yours, man. But when I'm cruising through these live streams, you'd be surprised some of the shit I see on here.
Anything you see that is hardcore pro Biden is coming from somebody that is very anti Trump. If Gavin Newsom jumped out there and took the reins from Joe Biden, those same people will be riding Gavin Newsom. They're not hardcore behind Biden. They just don't like Trump just that much.
Yeah, that's my point. So you got like diehards on both sides for whatever reason. Like Joe Biden. I wouldn't consider myself a. I put it this way: Trump's got my vote as of right now.
Okay.
Does that mean that something can't change my mind before November of next year? No, not at all. If someone else showed up that I thought had the ability to unite the country, who had sensible policy,
Wait a minute. You said if someone showed up that you thought had the ability to unite the country, do you think that Trump in any way is even attempting to unite the country?
no, not at all. But I know his policies, and I know that his willingness to follow through with commitments that he made are there, despite the unity or not. But someone who's got my attention right now, and I know this is going to piss off the diehard like far left that are in this, but I have been literally studying RFK Jr. and the mainstream media have completely written this guy off as some sort of anti-vaxxer nut job. When I watched his podcast on Joe Rogan, the entire thing, nothing he said was anti-vax whatsoever. None of the
He's
things that he
on.
said were
Come on now. He's on tape, wide awake, suggesting that he talked to a total stranger and told them not to take the vax. He's on video saying it to somebody.
that specific vax. Yeah, he's anti-COVID vax. Let's put it that way. But all of his kids are vaccinated and have all of their shot records. He's vaccinated, produced his shot records. When it comes to tried and true vaccines that we've tested and followed and did long-term studies on, he's he's not anti-vax in general. He was anti-COVID vax based on the lack of trial testing and the lack of forthcoming from the CDC and the NIH. And so, he had legitimate concerns, like a lot of us who didn't get the vaccine had legitimate concerns. And I think that doesn't make him somehow not capable of running the country. The
Let
man
me let me
is
just say let me just say this. If you put a few thousand liberals in a room, had a town hall with a few thousand liberals, and ask them what issues are most concerning them, you're going to hear health care, you're going to hear abortion, You're going to hear $15 minimum wage, maybe police reform will be. Do you think RFK is pushing any issue that the liberals consider as a major issue? What is he talking about that would make him on paper look like a liberal?
Yeah, so absolutely. Like one of the things that I hear people that are on the far left talk about is American imperialism around the world, acting as the as the world police. And one of the things he said is he wants to close down all of these bases we have around the world that is taking up the American taxpayer dollar, and he wants to make our military strong at home to the point that no one would dare attack us on our homeland and take all of that money that's invested in these bases around the world, invest it here in the United States of America to help Americans and specifically the middle class rebuild themselves. That's an amazing policy. I
Do
don't
you
know.
realize? I hear what you're saying, but I guess the response I would. Do you realize how far down the list, if the liberals listed the things most important to them, shutting down worldwide military bases, do you realize how far down the list that would be?
Shutting down military bases around the world. You think that MAGA is not okay with that?
I mean, well, they don't. Yeah, they're okay with it because they're talking about they don't want to help the Ukraine and things like that. But what I'm saying is what I told you earlier. If you put a bunch of liberals in the town hall and ask them what's most concerning them, what you just talked about, I don't even know if that would be in the top.
You're freezing up, man. I don't know if you got into a bad signal area or something.
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I mean, I can hear you
Can you
broken
hear
up a
me?
little bit, but your picture's frozen and your words are breaking
Okay.
up.
And what I said is that if you put, if you put a bunch of liberals in a room and you ask them what concerns them most, what you just discussed, I don't think that would even be in the top 20.
Well, maybe maybe because they're not forward thinking enough to realize how much that will impact them and get the ability to be able to address their concerns from a fiscal standpoint by reinvesting that money here at home. But if it's broken down and explained to them how that would benefit us, I mean, I don't understand. You can't have it both ways, right? So like the left is against America they talk about intervention across the globe and how that's, especially like when you get to like these nut job socialists and communists that we have in this country, and they talk about our utopia would have been just fine, but Americans intervened in this country or that country, and that's why it never worked out and we never saw it come to fruition. You think that they would get
Yeah.
behind and support somebody who wants to end American imperialism, but they don't. They
Yeah,
just
but
say
what
that.
about what? Let's say they get behind that. What happens to the $15 an hour minimum wage? What happens to universal health care? What about the stuff they actually want? Do we forget about that altogether?
No, so you can't. I'm just saying that's one policy that aligns with the lip service we hear from those on the left about American imperialism and
Yeah.
it's something that would address that concern. So it's like I just think that people will take one subject that they disagree with a candidate on and take it and say, just because this 5% is something that I ardently disagree with, the other 95% that he's saying I can 100% support. People aren't willing to do that. They've drawn a line in the sand. And
No.
unfortunately, in this country right now, with the polarity that's taking place, you're either, if they got a P next to their name, they're getting half the country's vote. If they've got an R next to their name, they're getting half the country's vote. And that's all the further most people look into it. And it's just sad.
Yeah, I'm getting ate up. Damn, I'm getting. I'm trying to carry on this conversation. These fucking mosquitoes are killing me. But I hear what you saying, but like I said, what he's promoting ignores all of our signature core issues, and I think for that reason alone, we would disqualify him. And it shouldn't. What should be an eye opener is the overwhelming majority of the people that like RFK are not liberals. That should tell you everything. But I'll give you that sort. I got to move it on.
You had mentioned the California governor, Gavin Newsom. So would he get your vote if he entered the race?
Over, you talking about over RFK?
No, over Biden in the primaries. If you were to primary Joe Biden, would you vote for Gavin Newsom in the primary?
Oh, I'd have to hear him speak because I want, if I'm a vote liberal, I want whoever's going to win. Because at the end of the day, whether we get Trump or whether we get some liberal, in this current environment, their policies are polar opposite. We're not going to get anything out of Trump we want. And for the most part, you guys are not going to get anything out of the liberals you want. So if you're a liberal, you got to go with whoever it is. But I need to see which one of them sounds like they have the best chance of winning. That's how I would vote.
So you wouldn't look at his current situation in his state, where you have people fleeing his state in record numbers, and now to the point that it's taken so much revenue out of California that they're trying to pass a law where people have to pay a tax to take their business and leave the state. If you just look at how he's governed a single state, how could you possibly have the wherewithal to give him power over 50 states?
Well, Biden is not exactly coming across as innocent. Biden is old. Biden is not in the perfect health. I mean, all of that's going to factor in it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I just think if this is it's just I don't know. I can't even imagine how we got here. Like I feel like I feel like the world ended a long time ago and we're in some sort of weird ass purgatory because I just simply don't remember it being this divisive. Like I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I just, we had, Tip O'Neill and Ted Kennedy fucking hated each other, but they got things done together in the 80s. And
I'll tell you how we got here. First of all, we had America's first black president. And the first black anything is going to be incredibly divisive. And then we had, after the first black president, we had a guy get in there that had no intentions or no desire to be a unifier at all. And he continued ridiculing the first black president, which just divided things more. But the first black president is going to divide things no matter what you do, because there are people like that in this country. And Trump did not come in there as a healer and say, let's get past things. He came in there and continued ridiculing the man. So that had a lot to do with it.
I agree. I agree that that definitely played a role. But I would say after the 2000 election, that's when it really started. When we had Florida get involved in the Supreme Court, stopping the recount and everything that happened.
Uh,
I think that's when the shit really started.
maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think that, we all lived through that era. I don't think that if you want to talk about the Bush eras being divisive, I think the Iraq War was far more divisive than that hanging Chad election, because Al Gore quickly conceded. That lasted all of a few months. I mean, like for instance, what Trump is doing in the belief that he won the election, Al Gore didn't take it anywhere near this level. Al
Oh
Gore
no.
conceded that election and was done with that.
No, I meant the populace, the division amongst the populace. I think as far as like drawing hard lines in the sand, that was like the beginning of it, where people started to pick which side of the aisle they were on and were going to ride or die. And then you had people who jumped ship in both directions when Obama came in, and
Yeah,
you know,
he's black. That's going
yeah.
to happen.
Well, I voted for him in '08. That was the first time I was old enough to vote, and I voted for him again in 2012. I kind of wish I would have voted for Romney in 2012, knowing what I know now. But in 2008, he captured my imagination, and he was just I a true unifier, I thought, and one of the best public speakers I've ever seen in my life. Um, and he had,
You see Obama as a true unifier, and look how Trump treated him.
yeah, no,
I mean, just think about that. Think about that.
I completely agree. But what lost me with Obama was after 2012, his foreign policy went. It it, it ultimately landed us where we are today. I remember at that town hall meeting that they had between Mitt Romney and Obama, and Mitt Romney told the crowd when he was at, Barack Obama tried to, ridicule him and say, when you were asked who's the biggest
We
geopolitical
want our
threat.
foreign policy back.
Yeah, well, when he said, yeah, exactly. When he said, what's the biggest geopolitical threat to the United States of America? And Mitt Romney said Russia. And, Obama said, the 1980s is calling for its foreign policy back. what turned out that when they brought in Secretary of State Hillary Clinton and she went over there and hit that plastic reset button and normalized relations, and then the Obama administration lifted sanctions, we ultimately saw Russia annex the Crimean Peninsula because of that indecisive foreign policy, and that got us to where we are today.
I don't know,
As
but you know something. After seeing how Russia has performed with the Ukraine, I don't believe Russia's the biggest threat to the United States. We've been handing the Ukrainians a few weapons, and that's been enough to really stave off the Russians. I don't think the Russians are anywhere near as dangerous to us as we originally thought. They're coming
well,
across looking like paper tigers.
yeah, I mean, I get that, but they're not fighting an indiscriminate war neither. Although it's violent and extremely deadly, they have the means to end this thing in a click of a fingers and a push of a button. And so it's not as messy as it could be. So to underestimate Russia would be a foolish endeavor because, if you remember in World War II, America gets a lot of credit for winning World War II, but in fact, it was the bloodshed of the 20 million Russians that won World War II, and we came into the party late and helped finish them and got, history says that we're the victors, but in reality, Russia had far more invested in World War II
Here,
than anyone else.
here's where I disagree. You said Russia has the means to end it immediately. The only way they can do it, based on what we have seen so far, is to use atomic weapons, which
That's
would
right.
make the land. If they use atomic weapons on a country that borders theirs, there's a very possibility that they could end up making their own country radioactive due to fallout going across the border. So they don't want to do that, and it would make the land unusable for quite a while. So if the only option they have is nuclear weapons, it shows they don't have much at all. America could take out the Ukrainians with conventional weapons. We wouldn't need to use nukes.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying, like, to make it seem as if the Russians shouldn't be taken seriously and they don't have capabilities beyond what they've shown in Ukraine would be like, I think that would be underestimating their ability or wherewithal.
Yeah, I don't know, but I'm just simply saying, after seeing the performance of Russia, they're no threat to the United States. I want to see precision guided bombs like we got, cruise missiles, drones that could fire a rocket through a window. They don't have any of that. They don't have any night fighting capabilities. They're not even remotely close to the U.S. unless they go to nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
Outside of nuclear bombs, they're not close.
Oh, I don't think anyone's close to America's military might. It's not even, I mean, we spend more than the next 10 biggest countries combined. I mean, we're the big kid on the block. There's no doubt about it. What I was getting at is when he rightfully identified Russia as the biggest geopolitical threat at that time in 2012, Barack Obama identified Al Qaeda as the biggest threat. These are people who were hiding in caves, living in deserts, and practicing guerrilla warfare with no means of reaching the homeland outside of their cowardly attack on 9/11. So
What,
I think that Mitt Romney was right in that circumstance.
Well, if you think that Al Qaeda is living in caves and have no means to reach the homeland, then you should have asked Bush, why the hell did we go all the way over there for that? I got to move it on, though, man.
All
Appreciate
right,
you
brother.
coming on. Good
Yep,
talk.
have a good. Yep, take it easy, buddy.
Absolutely. All right, looking in the comments, what did that say? Sorry, dude, you ignorant. Go watch MSNBC. You got some learn. Oh, you're talking to somebody else. I thought you was talking to me. But and by the way, I don't have an issue with dissenting opinion. If you think I'm not getting it right, let your boy know. You know what I always say. I don't block, ban, or censor any damn body. You don't have to agree with the host, even when he's walking down the street like I am now. Looking in the comments though, not sure if it's true, but from what I've heard, China has a working railgun. I still think, like what my last caller was saying, that the United States, we spend so much money on weapons and we stay at war. So not only do we spend money on weapons, we're constantly testing them out on real innocent people, real victims. So we know our shit is good. We like the drug dealer that's actually selling the product. We ain't just making it in the kitchen. We getting people high. So we know this stuff is good. And that's Russia doesn't have that advantage. America's been at war for what, 20 plus years? Most, if you are in the military now, America's been in conflict your entire life. If you just signed up in the military in your early 20s or whatever, America's for the most part been in military conflict or very close to your entire life. No other country on earth with our type of expenses towards the military can say that. So we're constantly making new shit and testing it out on people. It just gives us an advantage. Looking in the comments, who said that? Queen B said, if you ain't black, you don't vote for me. I get that folks are suggesting that that makes Biden racist. Listen, I don't know what's in the man's heart. Maybe he is racist as hell. But I am going to tell you this. Even if that is 100% racist as hell, even if Biden is a total racist, it is just like with Trump's indictments. That is not going to sway opinion for Biden. Not if the opposition is Trump. Just like those indictments, it doesn't matter what they charge Trump with. If you support Trump, you're not going anywhere. No liberal is going anywhere from vote for me, you ain't black. Even if you want to say it's racist, it is not going to, that ship is sailed. That is not going to do anything at this point. Looking in the comments. Freedom Night. Appreciate. Good evening, Freedom Night. Bro, be living with your internet. I got to find out. I think it's because I'm online so much. They have me throttled down or some shit. So, and Queen, you said he said a lot of racist comments. I'm not disagreeing with you, man. I'm not disagreeing with you at all. Anybody in Biden's timeline where Biden was, came out of the 1930s, 1940s, any white guy from that era has said the N-word and all kinds of racist shit. And I always use myself as an example. Any guy that's my age, any straight guy that's my age, has said a bunch of homophobic shit throughout his life because that was the norm. And that's the same thing with Biden. Good evening, Freedom. Freedom, are you there? I don't know if did I turn the volume down? No, I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Okay, I don't know what's going on with the caller. You are so correct, handsome. Yeah, and I don't want to be correct because just like with older white guys and racism, guys my age with homophobia, you want to be able to evolve out of that. Now, also, too, when we talk about Biden and his potential for racism, we pretend like Trump has been perfect or he hasn't been racist at all. And I mean, what Michael Cohen said about President Trump suggested that only black people could live like they do in Chicago and shit like that. Look, Michael Cohen lost a perjury claim in federal court, went to prison for lying and things like that. But do I believe every single thing he said about President Trump is not true? No. No, I don't. I mean, because Trump and Biden are only 4 years apart. You're going to tell me a wealthy, extremely wealthy white dude from New York hasn't said some of that same shit that we're accusing Biden of, considering that Trump's dad was known to have affiliated with the Klan? So we're supposed to believe that Biden is racist and Trump is perfect. I don't buy that. I don't buy it at all. Looking in the comments, I'm just like that. I try to do better. Yeah, you just got to try to do better. I will say this about President Biden. For folks that suggest he's a racist and things like that. I just like Trump started out talking about taking away assault rifles. He talked about he was identifying as a Democrat. He's on record as saying Hillary Clinton was a great I mean, people evolve, people change. Why can't Biden change? If we know for a fact Trump has changed on a host of issues. Is it not possible that Biden could change as well? When you look at Biden's administration, we want to suggest racist, vote for me, you ain't black, racial jungle, all of the stuff he said. But then you look at his administration. He has a black vice president. He helped the first black president get elected. He put in the first female black Supreme Court justice. He got LGBT members on his administration. He's responsible for the first black holiday, I guess second black holiday after Martin Luther King, but Juneteenth. He sure doesn't look like if we can bring up Trump contributing money to HBCUs, how does Biden not get credit for all of that shit? If you're going to suggest that Trump is not racist because he gave some money to HBCUs, how does having the first black Supreme Court justice or black female Supreme Court justice, black female vice president help the how does he not get credit for all of that? Certainly that's got to outweigh HBCU donations, right? I'm just saying, if you're gonna be fair about it, you got to be fair about it. Look it in the comments. Another sold out black man. I don't know what that means, but fair enough. Racial card, yeah. Identity politics. Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday. I don't even know what it is. Well, in regards to that comment, I can't pronounce your name, but I don't even know how to pronounce that. But in regards to you suggesting that Juneteenth shouldn't be a holiday, you don't even know what it is. That says a lot for how you were taught history. I mean, what does African Americans represent? 13 to 15% of the population? We all know they were enslaved at one point. And the fact that you do not even know the day they were free, that large of a percentage of the population, that speaks volumes to how history is being taught in this country. You should know that. I mean, plain and simple, you should know that. And you don't. And I'm not faulting you for not knowing it. Because fact is, they didn't want to free them and they didn't make it a holiday. They didn't make a big fuss over it because they never wanted to free them at all. And yeah, you don't know it. You're not the only one that doesn't know it. Let's keep it going. Chief, Judge, Political. Good evening, man.
What's going on? I wanted to touch back on what you said about RFK. You're right. He's not talking about anything that really speaks to average Democrats. You also have the fact he's running around with Steve Bannon, Tucker Carlson. This isn't the group of individuals that liberals would want, him to be around. And, like you said, most of us support Ukraine. So when he's being sympathetic to Putin and, making excuses on why Putin probably did it and all that, that's not the type of rhetoric that we want to hear.
Yeah, well, you heard what my caller said. When I asked him, what does he say to make him come across as a Democrat?
Yeah.
He started talking about, bringing and closing military base. Like, ain't nobody liberal in 2023 talking about that stuff.
No.
That stuff, that wouldn't even be in the top 20
and I think
of things we're concerned with.
I think with the society that we have right now, our foreign policy, knowing the aggressions of China and Russia, I don't think many Americans would actually support, basically defunding our military. That's what that is, in my opinion, because it's good to have a strategic advantage of having our, military bases over there. You're talking about shutting. I think we have 600 bases around the world. You're talking about shutting down half of those and bringing them back. This isn't the time for that. If nothing was going on foreign policy wise, I could understand that. But with a war going on in Ukraine and China knocking on Taiwan, that's not
right.
No.
Right. Yeah, like I said, there's not, to me JFK is kind of like Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
Whereas the person is just going around calling themselves a Democrat when they really aren't. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard is now went to be a Republican, but she ran for president of also a Democrat. Now she actually is a Republican. So thank God she didn't win.
Right.
What would she have been?
I can't remember if it was Harris or somebody called her a Russian asset. I can't remember who called her a Russian asset, but one of them called her a Russian asset. What I was going to say, too, to touch back about what you said about Biden and his racism, I do believe that he has said some racist things. But when you look at his actions, they always say actions speak louder than words. Well, Biden actually gave more money to HBCUs than Trump, so that's out the water. You have the lowest unemployment of black people under Biden now. Now, it's not much difference, but it's 0.1% lower than Trump. You also have the most diverse cabinet in American history, more representation of black people than any other administration in America combined, right? More than the black president, which is mind-boggling to me, but more than the black guy.
I'll tell you why. It's more acceptable now. When Barack Obama was president, he was still. Remember when Barack Obama became president, he was still talking about he identifies marriage as between a man and a woman. Right. So the LGBT community has come a long way since Obama got elected.
Yeah. Another thing is the black women on the court, not only with the Supreme Court, but the appellate court and the federal court. I believe it makes up 40%. Black women make up 40% of Biden's appointments. You also have black people over the Secretary of Defense. Okay, that's big boy shit. over the EPA, and we know that our communities are the ones that have higher levels of pollution and other environmental problems. So black men over that, a
Well,
black
shit,
woman,
Trump wanted to get rid of the EPA.
right?
Yeah.
Black woman over the housing and development. And I can't think of the policy right now, but they've implemented a policy to make sure that black people houses are being appraised at the right value. And when we
Yeah,
talk,
I've seen plenty of specials
yeah,
about how black people had to use white folks. I think Robin Roberts on ABC did one where the couple had to use their white friends to be there when the appraiser came, and then all of a sudden their price of their home was
right.
worth like $200,000 more.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
that
if you
just
know
is
who Marsha Fudge is, she don't play. She's that one where I think she did a press briefings and she came in and said good morning and everybody kept sitting there and she looked around like I know y'all hear me talking to y'all. I said good morning. You know, she a black woman. She don't play that stuff. You know how black women are.
so. Let me ask you this before I move it on. In regards to
Yeah.
black women, how do you think it's going to go down that in D.C. that whole indictment against Trump, the judge is a black woman appointed by
And,
Obama?
and you can already see that she's saying shit like, "Who you talking about in that post? like who you talking
Yeah.
to? Who you talking?" He like, "Oh no, we're talking." All right now, because I ain't like I don't want to call her a B, but I ain't like the other lady down in Florida. I'll say that. But good talk. I'll talk
Right.
to you later.
All right, man. Have a good one.
All right.
Okay, and I I will say, let's hopefully it doesn't happen. But if this black judge keeps coming down hard on Trump, let's hope something racist does not slip from anybody. But let's hope something racist does not slip. Looking in the comments, GZ Bull says tired of paying $3.59 gas. Hell yeah, gas is high than a motherfucker. But let me make something clear. This is what I keep saying. Because the Republican Party has went so far to the right, you get Republicans talking about executing women for having an abortion. You think $2 gas is going to make them forget that? You know, when it comes to the LGBT community and some of this stuff, you think giving them gas at $2 a gallon is going to make them the amount of right-wing policies, you guys went too far to the right in some areas. That I don't think $2 gas is enough of a selling point to get people back. That's just my humble opinion. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, there are some things, like, let me give you an example. Let's say let's say Gavin Newsom got in there and he could give you $1 a gallon gas. Very, very cheap. But he was also talking about taking away the AR-15. Would you be willing to give up guns for $1 a gallon gas? That's what we're talking about here, folks, is that the Democrats have lost something big. The abortion rights are almost parallel to the Second Amendment. Now, I understand the Second Amendment is a constitutional right and abortion is not. Nevertheless, that is a huge, huge takeaway for liberals, a huge win for Republicans. You're not going to give people $2 a gallon gas and make them forget about that. It's just not going to happen. Do you realize all of the negative shit that's coming down the pipe for women? Jail sentences, women dying because they couldn't have an abortion or having to travel hundreds of miles and pay thousands. All of the negativity coming to fertile women, $2 a gallon gas ain't going to erase that. It's just not. But I understand the sentiment. Looking in the comments, the Democrats and some Republicans are mad about the Dobbs decision. Yeah, but there's not enough Republicans pushing back to make the Republicans think that they need to rethink things. There's not. In fact, like I stated, not only do you got a South Carolina legislator talking about women who have an abortion should be executed, you got Lindsey Graham, Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell, and Trump even admitting that the ban on abortion could go federal. $2 gas does not erase that. It just doesn't. I mean, so whatever the Republicans are offering, it better be bigger than $2 gas to overlook something like that. Because that encompasses a hell of a lot of women from what age? From about age 9 to probably about 50. Any woman in that age range, 9 to about 50, is capable of getting pregnant. And all of them could be forced to carry children to term that they don't want. Some states are trying to force them to do it even if they're raped. Some states are forcing them to potentially carry babies to term that are not even viable. Other than that, then you got to, if you do want to exercise your rights, you oftentimes got to spend hundreds of dollars a night in a hotel or two, or even more, to travel out of state. Missouri's trying to pass a law to make the unborn a resident of the state, so that if the woman leaves the state and has an abortion, she can still be held accountable for killing a kid inside her. $2 a gallon gas does not erase all of that. That shit is serious. That shit's looking serious. You're not going to get rid of all that for $2 a gallon gas. Just like I stated earlier, taking away the AR-15 and giving you gas for cheap is not going to make you forget that I took away the AR-15. You're not going to vote for that because gas is cheap. Looking in the box, Ron. I'm anti-abortion, but I think we have to meet in the middle with, even most Republicans realize the Republicans have went too far to the right. Ron, good evening.
How's it going, Tim? You see, it's pretty crazy how we're out here blaming these presidents for these fallen soldiers, man. I think that's insane that we're blaming all these presidents, like Biden, for example, with the pullout. They're blaming him for those 13 people. I think
Well,
that's not
do
fair.
you wait a minute? Biden certainly could have made that evacuation more safer. For instance, pull out the armed men last, as opposed to the way they did that. It could have been done and possibly saved those 13. I mean, I don't want to say he's totally responsible, but I'm not going to clear him for that.
Because even if they did have if they would have pulled out all the armed men last, it still would have been could have still been one casualty that they could go back and blame. I think it's just a dirty politics, honestly. It's dirty
Yeah,
politics
I don't see that.
because it's actual Democrats that do it too. They blame George Bush for all those countless deaths too, and they blame Barack Obama. It's dirty politics overall. I think it's just a
Well,
nasty way of going about it.
I will say in regards to blaming George Bush, now that we have the benefit of hindsight, I don't think there's any American currently that believes that the Iraq War was necessary. It was optional at best. I mean, is there anything we can look back on after all of that time in Iraq and say, yeah, that is a huge accomplishment or a huge win for America? Like, did we get anything out of that at all?
Absolutely not. I thought it was more of a personal vendetta, honestly. It might have been
Yeah.
something personal between George Bush and Saddam and Osama. It might have been something personal because we did promise them. And thankfully, right, Joe took in the steps, right? Joe, they made a promise to Ukraine in '94, and he's actually living to his promises now, because it would have been a similar instance with us fighting possibly against the Ukraines.
Yeah. Let me say this, Ian. I don't defend Russia normally, but here's one where I do believe Russia should be defended. And what I mean by this, if someone was doing to America what is happening to Russia right now, and that is having a nation that is literally across the border from Russia trying to become a member of NATO. If we had Canada or Mexico or even Cuba trying to become a member of the Soviet Union, we would go to war with them too. I mean, I don't typically defend Russia, but I do believe this is a case of do as I say, not as I do, because America, under the same circumstances, would go to war with its neighbor if they were trying to become a member of the Soviet Union.
In that aspect, and that's why the issues amongst all people, right? I think that's a people issue, because Putin or Trump or Biden, we all can see human to human, right? Whether your beliefs are not the same beliefs as me. You, for example, perfect example, someone that listens to people on the right, listens to people on the left, isn't silencing anyone. I mean, regardless, like, NATO has this policy, like, if you can meet their requirements, you should be able to join. Russia has a issue with that for whatever reason. Is it because they want to take over the whole entire world?
Yeah, the reason is obvious. NATO is an enemy of Russia. Just like I said, if the Soviet Union had the same policies as NATO, and I know I'm starting to look black as hell in the sunrise, but in the sunset. But if the Soviet Union was still intact and they had the exact same policies as NATO, we would not be okay with Canada or Mexico or even Cuba becoming a member of the Soviet Union. You seen what happened with the Cuban Missile Crisis?
Yeah,
We
I
were
was going to
not going to
mention
let
that.
them have missiles on that island. So yeah, so we're bitching about Russia, but at the end of the day, we would do the same thing they're doing.
I mean I think it is fair to say that. It is fair to say that.
Yeah.
I just find it a little bit discerning because, like the last caller came up here, we got all these proxy wars developing with Taiwan and China, Russia, Ukraine. We're moving in times, man. It's a lot of race related issues going on in America. It's
Yeah.
just, man.
Well, let me say this. Let me say this in favor of Biden because you got everybody from Trump on down suggesting that Biden is weak and that's why Putin decided to invade. I will say this, even if that is the case, I don't necessarily know if that's the case, but let's say it's true that Putin saw Biden as a weak leader and decided to invade. He underestimated Biden. There's no way in hell that Putin, when he invaded the Ukraine in February of last year, thought that this shit would still be going on in August of the following year. So
Yeah,
even if Putin thought Biden was a weak leader, Biden has clearly shown you really underestimated me. I mean,
it
we've
really
killed a lot of Russians, a lot of their equipment has been wiped out. Biden has certainly came across as far stronger to the Russians than anybody would want to admit.
it's kind of embarrassing to Russia though.
Yeah,
I, it embarrasses a global superpower. It shows that Russia is pretty inferior.
yeah. Makes him look
At,
like a paper tiger.
and maybe that was what the maybe that was the plan essentially. Maybe that was the plan essentially from both sides, right? Both sides, Democratic or Republican, right? Both sides.
No, I don't think it was. I think it was. I don't think that Russia expected America to step up the assistance to the Ukraine. I think to some degree, maybe Putin did think that Biden would be a little bit more gentler. You know, the liberals don't want war, and that they could maybe make a few threats and America would back down. It just failed miserably. Biden has turned into Dark Brandon and made it clear to Putin, we're going to give these folks whatever they need to kick your ass.
Yeah,
I
he
mean,
earning he is earning his second term. I'm not gonna lie to you.
yeah,
Right now, he's
yeah,
earning his second term.
yeah.
And then with that clash in the Roe v. Wade, he's definitely earning his second term.
Well, he didn't earn that. They gave that to him.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, they gave that. Roe v. Wade is a huge gift to President Biden. And that's what like I told my last guest or the guy in the comments that you can talk about $2 gas all you want, but that Roe v. Wade shit, you're not gonna make people forget that. Offering them $2 gas. That ain't nowhere near as big enough a trade off.
man, that- it was interesting, right? The 2020 election, seeing all those people that voted. There was a massive amount of people that voted. This turnout next year might be very interesting as well. I'm looking
Well,
forward to it.
I'll tell you one thing we know for certain, no matter how it goes down, the liberals are gonna be accused of cheating. But I gotta move it on, Ron.
Facts.
Appreciate you
All right,
coming in, man. All
all
right.
right, Tim.
All right, man. Thanks. As folks can tell, it's the sun is setting here, and I'm sure I look black in a motherfucker. You know, after a certain time of night, when I smile, I look like for you Pac-Man players, I look like the ghosts returning back to the box after they got chomped, where you just see the fucking eyes and teeth. So yeah, it's getting dark. I'm gonna get ready to wrap this up before it just be a black dot on the screen. Looking in the comments, women have forgotten about their rights by what? Women have forgotten about their rights by now. They realize the era of the way they were thinking. What the hell? Are you serious? How long would it take you if the Second Amendment was overturned? How long would it take you to forget about your rights? I mean, just think about that. You just said women have forgotten about their rights. You know, in regards to women forgetting about their rights, if one of them gets pregnant by a rapist and she got to carry that baby to term, I think that might remind her. So, you know, what about a chick that's carrying a baby that's not viable, that is not going to live, but being forced to carry it an additional 6 months when they could take it out of her now? You think she's going to remember her rights? So that's kind of comical to some degree. Women have forgotten their rights. No one overturned Roe versus Wade. It was handed back to the states. Less big government. Well, in regards to trying to suggest that no one overturned Roe versus Wade, if you live in, say, New Orleans, and today you have a pregnancy termination, tomorrow you have to drive all the way to the state of New Mexico Illinois or somewhere way up north, you can tell me it's states' rights all you want. But if a woman has to literally leave New Orleans and the nearest place she can have a pregnancy terminated is all the way over in the state of New Mexico, that's a fucking ban. You think she's not going to notice the fact that now she's got to buy a plane ticket before that she can get on the public bus? You think she's not going to see that as a ban at all, huh? That makes sense to you? It's a ban. It's a ban no matter how you want to phrase it. For women in Republican states, it is a ban. In some cases, it is financially out of the realm of them being able to do it. Because, like I said, traveling from New Orleans to New Mexico, a few states over, because you got to go all the way across Texas. I mean, you're talking probably a 15-hour drive or more, or a plane flight. Clearly, you're going to need hotel money and all of that shit. Whereas you originally could have done it right there in New Orleans for a few $100. Now, all of a sudden, it costs you 10 times as much or 5 times as much or whatever the case may be. That's a ban. Call it what you want. That's a ban. It's not a ban. It's a huge-ass hurdle. It would be like saying, I'm not going to ban the Second Amendment. I'm just going to knock it back to Civil War era rifles. You know, the ones where you got the muzzle loaders, all of that shit. We didn't take away your guns. You still can get a gun. You just can only get muzzle load. You wouldn't see that as a ban, huh? Yeah, it's a ban. Looking in the comments, if Walmart paid me more, I would pay more than $100 per month to his campaign. Wow. All right. Vote for what you want in your state. That's how it works with less government. Well, the problem with the statement that it's only going to states' rights is you've had a lot of top Republicans come out and admit the quiet part out loud. Is federal. Very similar to when Beto O'Rourke yelled, "You damn right, I'm gonna take your AR-15." Do anybody believe that if he got what he want, he would stop at the states' rights? I don't know why Republicans clearly feel a certain way in defending their own rights, but then expect liberals to be totally ignorant and using that same judgment toward defending our rights. The Second Amendment and abortion rights, although one is constitutional and one is not, other than that, they have a hell of a lot in common. Just like Second Amendment defenders believe, do not allow the liberals to impose any law because it's a stepping stone towards taking all of your guns away. That applies in the abortion thing. That applies to abortion rights. If you give them an inch, they're going to take a mile on abortion rights. And here's the simple statement I often give. If you are truly about saving the life of the unborn, you think if I cross a river and do it in the next state over, you're not going to care about that at all. Huh? If you truly believe in saving the life of the unborn, you want to save that life no matter where it's being taken at. If I'm driving 30, 40 miles down the road and doing it over there, you're going to want to stop me from doing it there if you're truly about saving the life of the unborn. So all of this crap that is going to stay at states' rights is just a flat-out lie. There's no way in hell any liberal should believe that the Republican Party is going to be fine with it staying at states' rights. That's not about truly saving kids. Looking in the comments, we want a federal ban. Yeah, at least you're being honest about it. Is there any Republican that is in favor of banning abortion at states' rights that would have a really big hissy fit if they did it on a federal level? No. You don't. If you truly support Republican and conservative causes, you don't give a shit about imposing your cause in a liberal state. I mean, just like Chicago is a liberal area, Republicans been complaining about from day one. You didn't say leave it to the states, let them have their own rights. No, you wanted them. You want the way you see the country is being ran, whether you're Democrat or Republican. You want the whole country ran that way, not just some areas. So yeah, that to me, any liberal, man, y'all can't see me at all now. Any liberal or any Democrat that falls for what they call the okie doke, that Republicans do not want a federal abortion ban, you just naive. That makes no sense at all. Certainly, like I pointed out, Mike Pence, Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and even President Trump have stated that a federal abortion ban is possible. Mike Pence said it's the goal. Lindsey Graham made it clear that that's what he wanted. So you got 4 of the top Republicans already coming out and saying it. You're going to tell me you don't think none of the other ones believe it either? Notice when they said it, the little bit of outcry. You get more outcry from an LGBT student playing on the other team than you did about them talking about a federal abortion ban. So clearly, if they were to implement that, you're not going to get a lot of backlash from the Republican Party. So, and I see people even in this live, in the comments even saying, I got somebody right now saying it should be banned. Had somebody else saying I want a federal abortion ban. So yeah, if anybody dumb enough to believe that they're going to stop at states' rights, you're just being naive. Rights are God-given and not government-given. No religion has it as a right. Well, I'm just telling you what's happening in this country. Our Republicans have abortions and Republicans are LGBTQ. What the hell? Yeah. And if you are one of those, you have to keep that shit silent. Isn't there folks joking around suggesting that Lindsey Graham is a member of the community? I don't know if he is or not, but he sure can't come out. I mean, even for some of you Fox News viewers, Shep Smith, he used to be one of the big news analysts. He had to hide coming out for a while because he was a gay guy working at Fox News. I mean, yeah, if you're hanging around the right and you're gay, it could be a problem in some circles. God didn't give me a gun. God's a ripoff. Damn. Okay. If he is, that's sad. Why is it? So you're saying if Lindsey Graham is gay, that's sad? Why is it sad? Lady G dresses in drag at night. Oh my God, you guys are mean to Lindsey Graham. You know something? I want to say something real quick about Lindsey Graham too. What I believe from the Republican side of the aisle, I think in regards to legacy, it is imperative that you guys get Trump back in office. And I say this because Trump has hollowed out the Republican Party to the point where virtually no one has a favorable reputation anymore. We're now up to Ron DeSantis and calling him names. We're up to the vice president calling him names. How many respectable Republicans remain in that party other than Trump? You really need Trump to win so he can put back some people in power that you guys actually respect, because he's literally gutted your party. When Trump suggested that he was going to drain the swamp, he must have meant Republicans, because you guys hate more of them than anybody. How many Republican congressmen, Republican senators, Republican governors do you guys still like? I mean, most of the most prominent Republicans are now considered rhinos or traitors or treasonous. All of the Republicans that either received a Republican nomination or were once a Republican president in our lifetime are now at odds with the Republican Party. I'm talking about the McCain family, the Reagan family, the Bush family, Romney. Every Republican president, former Republican president, or former Republican nominee for president is now at odds with the Republican Party. Y'all don't like any of those people. So it's like, if Trump does not get reelected, he could very well leave behind a totally gutted Republican Party. I mean, he has really flipped the Republican Party on its head. That is why, and I'm not saying this is shade to President Trump, but that is the main reason why us Democrats did not get behind Bernie Sanders, because he was attempting to do the same thing to our party. He was going to come in and turn the party into a socialist party and have all kinds of backlash and pushback with all of the traditional Democrats of the party. He still has problems with them. Bernie Sanders would have done something similar, maybe not as aggressive as President Trump, but certainly you could already see the progressives in behind Bernie Sanders starting to dislike all of the traditional Democrats. Bernie Sanders was well on his way to doing what Trump has done to the Republican Party. He has gutted the Republican Party, just totally gutted it to the point where you guys don't trust anybody that's running that party other than him. Everybody else is so-so. Trump could snap his fingers, and no matter who the Republican person, you could fill in the blank with any Republican name. At the snap of a finger, Trump could ruin that person's career. There is not one person in the Republican Party that Trump does not have the power to ruin their career. That's what Bernie Sanders could have potentially did to our party. Fortunately, the liberals did not let him get as far as he could have. I'm not saying he might have not been a bad leader, but you're in a republic. You're not in a dictatorship. You're in a republic. You need cooperation from the Senate, from the House. You can't do it all on your own. And that's what Trump has kind of tried to do. And that's why he's had nothing but problems. Looking in the comments, William said that's a damn shame. It is what it is. He has gutted the Republican Party. Everybody is a traitor, a rhino. It's gotten to the point where you cannot speak ill of President Trump and remain a respectable Republican. You just can't do it. You need to correct that shit fast. Look at what happened with Ron DeSantis today announcing that Trump actually lost the election. I guarantee his poll numbers are going to go down for that. They've already been going down, but I guarantee that ain't going to help him out at all. Looking in the comments, he after the Democrats too. Yeah, he's supposed to be after the Democrats. He don't supposed to be after his own party. Somebody got a damn dog out here. You better get away from me. I got all kinds of shit on me. You're going to lose that dog. True, they are all afraid. Yeah. This person let me damn dog. God, I'm going to want to take somebody's dog out on camera. Let me go back. Shit. Do not let that dog go, lady. It will be over with. Let me see here. Motherfuckers come to the park and they had their dogs just running around. Everybody ain't cool with that. It's dark as hell out here too. Seriously, you will not have that animal coming home with you. All right, look, they are all the party of money. There is two parties. Yeah, that's both. Try that in a small town. I'm serious. I don't play around with animals jumping up on me. I'm serious. When I go for a walk, I got what I gotta have. And you ain't just gonna have somebody animal jumping on me. You are not a true patriot if you aren't willing to turn tricks for Trump. That's sad. That is sad. It sounds sarcastic, but there is a certain amount of legitimacy to that. If you are not willing to, man, how do we word it without it just sounding insulting? I don't want to say kiss the man's ring, but if you don't portray Trump in a positive light, or if you challenge him in any way, yeah, it's over for you. Now, the Republican Party overwhelmingly refers to us liberals as sheep. That is the definition of a sheep, where you are not allowed to say anything against somebody without losing your entire reputation. But they're calling us liberal sheep. I don't know. Turn tricks for Trump. If you're with Trump, you're in no way a patriot. I'd love to hear you elaborate on that. Let me go ahead and take one since I'm sitting out here in the dark. Denny, good evening. Mosquitoes and shit. Let's see if it lets you do. My connection's been a little. So, Denny, can you hear me?
Hi, yes, I can hear you.
Hey, I'm good to hear you. So, what do you think? Am I getting it wrong that you cannot criticize Trump and survive as a Republican?
No. I mean, I think that the criticism part is generally, I think even the Republicans oh yeah, there's a lot of criticism that's legit, but it's the backlash from Trump. I mean, he's just can't take the criticism, and he will go, what do you call it, a low, punch in
Yeah,
the
I mean, I get that he's not good at accepting criticism, but why is it that the criticizing Trump could mean an end of your career? How does that work?
and it's it really is just the backlash. I hate to say that, I don't want to say that, the C word or anything, the cult word, but I mean, it's just the way he rallies people to his personal cause. That's the crazy
Yeah,
thing.
but we know President Trump is a human being like the rest of us, capable of making mistakes. If you cannot criticize him and he makes a mistake, how do you get the word out if he's impenetrable to criticize? What happens when he actually does something wrong? You can't say nothing about it.
Nope, you can't. I mean, look at him. What he said or what he was doing, and look at all the, never did anything with Hillary, never fulfilled that promise. The whole wall fiasco, pardoning Bannon after Bannon stole all that money for the wall from the the
You
base.
know, it's interesting. It's interesting you mentioned Bannon stealing money from the wall, and because I often have conversations, and when we talk about stuff like Black Lives Matter, people talk about how corrupt Black Lives Matter is, how they misappropriated funds. But it's interesting you talk about stuff like the wall, Stop the Steal, and you think about how much money was raised, and nobody's asking. Obviously, Stop the Steal turned into a failure because it's starting to look like maybe the steal didn't even happen to begin with, but clearly the millions of dollars that was raised in regards to Stop the Steal. If you want to talk about Black Lives Matter and where the hell did the money go, where did the Stop the Steal money go? I mean, you're talking millions of dollars.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it just came up the other day again. You have to, anytime you donate to Trump or his people, you got to check the fine print all the way down to the bottom of the page, because they got that check mark down there. You need to check here if you don't want to have your donation automatically taken out every month or every week.
Wow.
And that happened before, and it's happened a couple times. It just came up again recently. Just this last week, I heard some news about it, and it's just like, man, how do you support a guy who's treating you that way? I don't get it. I mean, not just support him, but
Well,
worship him.
I've dated some chicks and I didn't realize. I mean, when you don't realize it's happening,
Yeah, I got you. I've been there.
maybe they're love struck in an abusive relationship and they don't realize they're in it.
I've been there. I've been there. Yeah.
So, I mean, but at the end of the day, after Trump is come and gone, do you see what I'm suggesting? Where it looks like the Republican Party is being gutted to the point where they don't trust any of their secondary leaders. No one in the Senate, no one in the Congress, other than maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz. No one else really has their adoration and respect anymore. They're starting to view everybody as a traitor.
Yeah, but that's the nature of the megalomaniac. That's Trump does not want competition for the throne. He's on the throne, and he won't let anybody else near it. It's Game of Thrones type of thing for the Republican Party.
Now let me give you this one, because this is a very strong comment in the comment section. You tell me what you think of it. It's pretty damn strong. Be the Goat said the Republican Party is the new Confederacy. Wow. Do you see any validity to that? That's a strong comment.
No, I couldn't see it like the Confederacy. I mean, like I said, I think it's more like a mafia or a Game of Thrones kind of thing. It's who has the throne has the people behind them, no matter what they say or do. I mean, it really. I don't know. I really feel like they're easily switching of their conservative, what do you call them, morals or tendencies or beliefs about like the debt.
But think of it this way: we're a couple old chaps having a nice civilized conversation, but we both have to realize, despite what we're saying, this man could actually be our president again. How does that make you feel?
I have a little vomit in my throat.
Do you think America would really fare that bad? What if he became president? We got $2 a gallon gas back, got energy independence, and it turned out all right. Is there any possibility of that?
Well, no, there isn't, because a couple things. We never had energy independence before. We're actually more energy independent now than we were under Trump. I know people are going to get irate in the comments about that, but it's true. We're producing more oil right now than we ever did. I mean, on an annual basis than we ever did under Trump, and we got more renewable energy and more coming. So, I mean, what do you got? How do you say that we're not more energy independent now? It's just the fact.
Well, but if what you're saying is true, how do you take what you just said up against Bobby Covino in the comments stating that, come on, Trump is the greatest president in history? What do you do with a comment like that based on what you just said?
Listen, Bobby, good luck. Have a drink. Have a drink on me. I wish you the best. There's nothing I can do for you.
All right, Danny, listen, my battery's getting kind of low. I'm going to have to wrap it up.
All right. Sounds good.
Good talk. Certainly a All right, I might have to talk you guys out, but unfortunately, I'm down to like 14% of battery. But greatest in history, huh? Wow. You know, I had a live stream about a couple months ago, and I did ask that question: is Trump indeed the GOAT, greatest president of all time? And I did get a lot of folks that suggested he was the greatest president ever. Now, obviously, I completely disagree with that. I mean, we're talking about defeating Hitler, freeing slaves, sending a man to the moon, defeating the Soviet Union. Trump is not in that category. However, if I wanted to defend Trump, I would be more willing to entertain. Maybe you think he's the best president in our lifetime. We could debate that a little bit more, but there's too much significant accomplishments in this country to say he's the greatest in our lifetime, greatest in history. I mean, you got George Washington defeating the English. I mean, he didn't accomplish anything that would put him even remotely close to Washington, Kennedy, Lyndon Johnson, Roosevelt during World War II. He didn't come close to those folks. So, yeah, I don't see where greatest of all time would ever come up. Cross the DMZ. Now, in regards to crossing the DMZ, you're talking about Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un in North Korea. What was accomplished by doing that? It is now 3 years after Trump has left office. Give me one thing that was gained for America by Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un. Just simply saying I shook his hand and, listen, I would like to bang Halle Berry. Getting her autograph doesn't count. That's all that doesn't count as, you don't get to go back to your boys and say, I got her autograph. Did you see the color of the panties? No, I got her autograph. That ain't enough. Meeting with Kim Jong-un with no type of actual accomplishment, that ain't saying nothing. Give me something that was actually accomplished by meeting with Kim Jong-un or meeting with Vladimir Putin. That's what I'm talking about. So if you want to say, listen, he reached out and talked to a tyrannical leader, okay, he reached out. But there's no treaties, no agreements were made, nothing. And he is still considered one of the worst enemies of the United States. Nothing was gained from that. So I don't chalk that up as an accomplishment by any means. And in fact, like I stated, give me one thing that America gained by Trump meeting with Kim Jong-un. Nothing. I think he got a note in his pocket somewhere. Maybe that'll appear somewhere once he passed away. But yeah, we didn't gain nothing out of that. Looking in the comments, MAGA blames Biden for aliens. Damn, really? I thought Biden didn't know where he is. Maybe he's in a whole nother dementia, huh? He don't have dementia. He's in another dimension. So maybe that's what they meant. All right, folks, listen, do appreciate you guys rolling with your boy for this impromptu live. You could be anywhere you want to be on this app. I didn't even ask for likes, and you guys gave your boy 27,000. That's love. Gave my black guy, there you go, somebody like came on. You can actually see me now. Gave me 27,000 likes without asking. I do appreciate that. I will see you guys tomorrow afternoon. Fortunately, I'm down to 10%. Gotta go. I think I do.